Hello and welcome to Cabal Whisperings. Today's date is August 19th at the time of filming, or recording, or whatever the heck we're doing here today. So if we're
Recording, filming it, it's pretty much all the same.
anyways, so we've got another filled show for you guys today. A lot of random topics, a lot of things that we're going to go over with the channel and stuff that we've been watching and have watched and things like that. So
Yeah, this is going to be a very movie and streaming heavy episode. So before we continue, a couple quick notes about the last episode. First of all, I was wrong about something I said. I said that Larry Hama wrote all but one issue of the G.I. Joe comic under Marvel. He actually wrote all of them under Marvel. It's the file cards in the back of the figures that he wrote all but one of. And the one he didn't write was written by Stephen King. Now, there's super technically, I think it's issue 21, is what they call the silent issue, where there is no interior writing. But he did actually write it, they just didn't put it in. So he wrote all 155 issues. Just wanted to, as I was doing the editing, I realized that I'd said it wrong and just want to throw it out there. And the other thing was, there was something Jim said at one point that I meant to come back to and totally spaced it. The concept of fridging, especially when it comes to comic books, and what that actually means for those of you that don't know. It's essentially where they create a love interest for the hero purely to kill them off later to inspire the hero. And the reason in particular it's called fridging is because of what happened to Kyle Rayner's girlfriend in the first few issues of the Green Lantern once he took over, where he comes home to find her crushed and smashed inside of a refrigerator by Major Force. So, and obviously she was dead. But yeah, that's why it's called fridging in particular. So, there you go, a little bit of comic book stuff for you. For those of you who, if there are any of you who are only listening to the podcasts, on our videos we've recently done, we recently released the Virtual Boy video. You should check out if you want to see a relic of a bygone era of Nintendo. Let Jim talk about that here briefly.
Yeah. So one of the kind of the neat things about trying to film that was actually trying to get video footage of a of a console that you're supposed to stick your face into to be able to see it. So I actually was kind of surprised how well the recordings turned out on that. Not great, but better than I was expecting.
I had enough in the editor to actually put some in there, so check it out if you want to see it. And if you're watching videos and haven't seen it, and you're watching this on video, this is it right here behind us. So,
it's just a neat little delve into one of the few missteps that Nintendo had. And again, my big takeaway on that was that it was just the technology just wasn't there yet. Now, obviously VR is everywhere, and kind of surprised that Nintendo hasn't jumped back onto that in some capacity.
We may in fact be living in a virtual simulation. One may never know.
What is that? I
think it's just a simulation hypothesis.
Yeah, but I know I think there's like a book or something out there based off that. But anyways, no, because the Switch is already a portable console. It seems like having something to, like some sort of, and they did that with the Nintendo. What do they call that? The cardboard box thing that they had. Nintendo Labs. They had that whole thing where you could build
I don't know,
devices with cardboard. And I'm surprised they didn't build one for
it's totally alien to me, Jim. Never even heard of that.
Well, Google did that with cardboard. They had Google Cardboard, which was you just put your phone into it. It was just a cardboard cutout that you made. So
all right.
Well, I think about as popular as Google Glass was, which is funny because I remember when Google Glass was like kind of a big deal. One of the guys at work was actually demoing it for going out to do inspections of people's homes and such.
Yeah.
Thought about inspectors wearing the Google Glass to be able to take pictures and stuff like that.
I'm sure somewhere down the road it will be a technology that actually gets applied, because you're right. There's all kinds of potential uses for it. Yeah, I think it's, if I had to guess, because I never experienced one, didn't read up on it, it's probably just missing a few key things that'll make it truly viable, and the fact I'm sure it was expensive.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the thing is that technology's like that, just like the Virtual Boy, just like anything else. Why we're not off topic on this is just the timing isn't right for that kind of technology. Now, the only problem with I see like with Google Glass is that it's like creeper central.
Yeah, I mean,
Because I mean, you pretty much are wearing a
it
camera.
could be one of those things that it just doesn't take off because of that very reason.
Well,
Even with the obvious potential uses.
in some countries, like silencing your the flash sound on your phone is not possible because of exactly that.
Really,
That the audible
the click.
click
Yeah.
is, and you can't disable it on some phones because they had an issue with people taking pictures of people that they shouldn't be taking pictures of, and the only way to deal with that.
I could see that.
So yeah,
Not for the U.S. with constitutional rights and everything, but I could see where people would get behind that. Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, we got the Virtual Boy. The I got another unboxing old stuff video that should be coming down the pipeline soon. And that one,
Yeah, that'll probably come up after this is up, so keep an eye out for that.
I'm looking at the floor down there because I still got it sitting on the floor from my recording. But and that is the Aquarius home computer. So that one's um, pretty neat. Actually, I'm excited to actually get the thing hooked up sometime and maybe do an actual review on the product itself. Still hoping to get up to that, like I said, the 10 unboxing old stuff videos because I've got a doozy for number 10 if I make it up to that. So we'll see. You got any videos in the works? I know we've got one BattleTech one that you.
We've already filmed a couple more BattleTech reviews. I'm just trying to space them out so they don't all just pile up all one right after another. But we have those. I have the one video with Owen as far as his campaign. But I want to also mention that we mentioned in a previous episode that we're going to have a second podcast line of like single topic things. And the first video is already up for that as well. And that's a review for the last voyage of the Demeter. So that's probably where our thoughts on Gen Con is going to go, because that's mainly audio. I mean, obviously you can see it on video too if you prefer, but that's mainly audio. So that's probably going to be the next one on there. And after that, we'll just see what comes up. But I'm probably going to go back and try to convert some of the older episodes from the YouTube channel that can go just audio and put them in there. But I'm going to take out the intro because it's got the music and everything. I don't want someone to start listening and then think that it's just stopped because there's big gaps in some of the notes and the music. So I'm going to take out the intros, and we're probably just going to film a new intro saying, hey, you might have seen this before on our regular channel, so don't think it's something new.
But we want to make sure that everybody has an opportunity to, either watch or listen if you're listening on your way to work or something. Which, by the way, that's kind of cool to know that people are inspired enough to listen to us on their morning commute or after work and that kind of stuff. So
yeah, so for that, we'll be picking episodes that mainly the ones that have decent audio quality, because I know some of our episodes don't, and I don't want to put things on there for people that are only listening to have terrible audio. So the more recent ones will probably go on there, like the movie reviews and things like that. But yeah, that's the big thing. Oh, and it's Cabal. I even just had it up because I was going to tell you the name. It is Cabal Whispering's Single Topic Episodes is what it's called. So look for those on there. And like I said, there's just one at the moment as of the recording of this, but there will be some more very shortly. Yeah, unfortunately, I could have saved myself all kinds of trouble because the way I edit these videos, because I edit like the main video and then the intro and start plugging all that stuff in. Well, in the interest of saving space on my computer, once it's done, I delete all the other files. So I had just the video file, the one I'm going to use. So I'm going to have to create it again from the existing, which will be easy. I'll just chop off the other part. But, it's one of those like, well, I wish I would have thought of that before I deleted all those.
Yeah, hindsight's 2020,
But like I said, we are going to put a thing in front of it so you know that it's an existing video, just in case you followed all of our videos. Like, hey, wait a minute, I've heard this before. So, anyway. That's most of my notes that I've got.
Yeah, I know. I think for me, like I said, I got to find what my next unboxing video is going to be. We're going to have to start doing some of the reviews of the games and stuff that we bought.
Yes, there is considerable Gen Con material in the pipeline as far as reviews from products that we bought. I believe Brad is going to try to record his thoughts on it as well. Depending on when I get those, I'll decide if I just combine them with ours or do a separate video.
I hope,
And
as I said, I want to see if we can get Chad in to do some Warhammer.
I'm hoping we can do that.
Because I'm interested in the topic. I sent him a picture and I was like, "You got about this many figures?" He's like,
yeah, yeah, the giant horde of minis.
Yeah.
I think I might have that many battle mechs.
That's on our Facebook page, Geek Cabal. So
yeah,
if you're not following us on Facebook, definitely go on there because I try to post memes. I try. I may not be as funny as some out there, but anything I find that I think
a lot of Star Trek memes, but they are funny, even if you're not into Star Trek.
Well, like I find that a lot of
I'm not complaining. I think they're hilarious, but
what I'm saying is like I tried to look up one for X-Men because I was like I thought it would be fun to do like an X-Men whatever. I couldn't find any. Like there wasn't just like a dedicated page of people just.
There's probably not, but I'll get you some X-Men memes. I've got some.
There's Star Wars ones.
Yeah, there's plenty of Star Wars memes and Lord of the Rings memes.
Yeah, like that. There's a few of them out there. Yeah, so but definitely follow us on there because definitely want with some more traffic on there, being able to see when our videos are coming out, being able to probably communicate with us a little bit easier. Sometimes the YouTube is not always as easy to communicate on, but
yeah, if you're looking to directly communicate with us, that's the better option. If you're wanting to comment on a video, I'd prefer you do it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, of course, because obviously that helps with the algorithm. And
yeah, it's purely self-interest. I'm not going to sit here and BS anybody. It's purely self-interest.
But it also
plus there's more people there and they can see the answers and
Yeah, and then it also helps for people that are new to the channel to kind of get an idea of our audience.
Yeah.
So
we're also on Twitter or X if people are starting to call it that finally. I don't know. Twitter, I don't know. Whatever Elon's calling it this week. And that's Real Geek Cabal. And, Brad handles that. Again, it's, hey, the videos are coming up at this time and this day and other stuff he posts on there. So
maybe he's a big Degeneration X fan.
Could be. Well, I had one of my class pictures taken wearing a Degeneration X shirt.
Were you?
Well, I wasn't, but who is it? Not X-Pac. Who was the other guy? There was.
Well, speaking of,
it wasn't one of the big. It wasn't Triple H, and it wasn't one of the others. It was the skinnier, kind of shorter guy, and I can't think of his name. But it's not. It wasn't X-Pac. Maybe it was X-Pac. I don't know. But he's sitting there in the front,
Yeah.
And it literally says "suck it" down at the bottom of the shirt. I don't think that one made it in the school picture though. That part.
Funny story about that though is that many eons ago down in Evansville, when the Texas Roadhouse was next to the mall, Eastland Mall, I actually parked next to Triple H, X-Pac, and Regal. I can't think of his name. The British guy.
Yeah, I can't think of his name. It's been a long time since I watched wrestling.
Because we went there.
Sorry, wrestling. There's a difference.
We went there earlier, we went there and they said, "Oh yeah, The Rock was here earlier," and I'm like, "Oh, that would have been cool to meet." And then
I found out what he was cooking.
I don't know, but they said he had sat like if we'd been there like 10, 15 minutes earlier, he was like sitting like right across from us.
Yeah.
Which I mean, don't get me wrong, I understand like they want to just eat; they're not there to interact. But to a certain point, you have to at least acknowledge people acknowledging you. But I was going to try to get Triple H's autographs. I was like, I'm going to sit out here and wait. And then I see him come storming out with the vein popping out of his forehead. I'm like, I'm not going to ask this man anything. And then I look and he's walking straight to my vehicle and I'm like, what the hell? And then, yeah, I parked right next to him. And I just see his bicep and I'm like, I'm sitting there with my notebook and I just kind of slowly put it down. I'm like, I'm not asking this guy anything. He was a very large individual and I would not want to.
Yeah, that reminds me of I was at the MGM Grand one time, like about an hour or two after they got done recording the match, the matches and everything for the show. And so I got to see several of them, in the hotel bar there. Well, one of the hotel bars. It's MGM Grand is more than one. Well, first we're coming in, and like kind of off in the distance, away from all the others, is Eddie Guerrero just over at a random blackjack table playing blackjack, still like wearing his outfit from the with ladies all around him. And then I come to the bar, and the Big Show's there. And like to give you an idea of like how big this man really is, he easily had he had a woman sitting on each of his arms, and one sitting on each of his legs also, and like they had ample room to sit. Like this guy is gigantic. Saw one of the Mexican wrestlers, and I can't think of who it was, but it took me a second to realize that it was him and not just some random dude walking by, because I was literally like a foot and a half taller than him. I was like, wait a minute, all these wrestler guys are supposed to be tall. Then I realized, wait, no, he's technically probably a luchador, just like really, but has embraced a wrestling persona.
I could say Rey Mysterio is very short.
It wasn't him. It was one that dressed like he's like a gangster from South Central. Had like the single button and the shirt open, and the kind of wide brim hat and the sunglasses. And I can't think of who it was off the top of my head. But then the really funny thing was like all of them were in one spot, and the bar was not quite an L shape, but more like it ran over and then did like a 45. And at the very other end was Bobby the Brain Heenan and Mr. Perfect, just totally away from everyone else. And I was like, maybe they are really assholes like they are on the show. So
You said that was at the MGM?
Yeah, the MGM Grand. Yeah.
Yeah, the only person I ran into at the MGM Grand, well, I didn't really run into him, is we were staying there, and the person I was with said we walked by the high rollers area, and they had like this like little like window area into the high rollers area that you could look into. And they're like, was that Drew Carey? And I kind of like lean back and look, and he looks at me, and I'm like, sorry, because again, these people are just trying to do their thing. But when somebody goes, hey, was that blah blah blah, you're like, well, I'm gonna go back and just take a quick look and see if that's who it was, and it was, and I was like, oh, okay.
My dad was telling me a story. He apparently ran into Dennis Rodman was there one time, and there was some guy next to him just drunk off his ass. He's like, Rodman, where's your dress, Rodman? Sir, I got to ask you to leave. But yeah, it's amazing who you run into. Total side note, just on that general topic, ran into I guess he'd be my uncle, great uncle, at a random truck stop in Kansas, coming back from Colorado one year. Just like, hey, wait a minute, was that Kenny? And sure enough, it was. Just like randomly in the middle of the country, like what are the odds, kind of thing.
Well, I was looking at, because I guess coming up in Indy, they're having PopCon.
Yeah, I saw a sign for it, but I didn't catch the dates, and I've never gone.
Yondu's going to be there in Craglin.
Not gonna lie, I think I'd rather have Michael Rooker's autograph for like The Walking Dead than for Yondu. He was okay, I liked him as Yondu, but
Mary Poppins.
Okay.
But yeah, I saw that coming up. So, anyways, we can get on to our topics here. I think we've rambled on.
Yeah, we probably better. So, in keeping with the structure we kind of laid out last time, we're going to talk about movies first. And first, I came across a series of articles this week. I took some notes about what they were about and figured it might be interesting to discuss, what could have been kind of stuff. So one of them mentioned, this was primarily talking about Timothy Olyphant, saying that he was in the running to play Iron Man, like kind of late stage, and him and Favreau were meeting. And but it also mentioned in the article that Sam Rockwell was in the running, and he went on to become Justin Hammer. So that was kind of funny that he ends up being like not quite Tony Stark, but similar,
They definitely de-aged him, for that role, because
yeah, Justin Hammer's supposed to be an old man. So, but I don't know. I can occasionally live with changes because I like Sam Rockwell, so I can live with it. I don't know that either of them would have been a better Iron Man, though.
No.
Because for me personally, and the article even kind of talked about this, the moment I heard Robert Downey Jr. was cast in the role, I thought to myself, that's an excellent bit of casting, because I've read some of the Iron Man comics, and even though I know they don't pursue this avenue in the movies, in the comics, he's a raging alcoholic.
Well, and I think they at least allude to it a moment in the first Iron Man because the very first thing they focus on is that he's drinking in the
Yeah, yeah,
movie.
they
But I
talk
think
about it a
that,
little bit,
and
but
I think that's more because they're just trying to show that he's just
party guy.
yeah, he just
Yeah,
doesn't care. He's just there to make some money, make a, you know,
yeah. But so I was like, Downey Jr.'s had his own brushes with substance abuse, so he's probably a perfect cast here because he knows what it's like. He knows how to play that without having to be told. Similar to the Saruman storyline of, he's lived it. Uh, Presumably hasn't seen someone stabbed in the back, but he did do some time, so maybe. Uh, but yeah, so that's why I thought he was. That's why I thought he was an excellent choice, even though they didn't really pursue that in the movies. But it also helps with like the PTSD kind of stuff, and getting over the fixation. Because like in Iron Man 3, he's obsessed, and that's the same general mentality, just in a different avenue of pursuit, So, but no, I like Sam Rockwell and Timothy Olyphant. I did like that Timothy Olyphant said, "That's all right, though. Favreau eventually cast me in The Mandalorian, so we're square." He was the sheriff in the beginning of season 2. For those of you that don't know, uh, yeah. So, what
well,
would
he's
you
also in
think?
the book of Boba Fett.
Yeah,
So he reprising the same role minus getting shot at first by
Cad Bane.
yeah,
Yeah,
which I mean after what happened to Fennec Shine there, Fennec Shine or whatever, that I guess mortal wounds are really nothing when you can just get robot parts
well, I mean, the precedence is there with Darth Maul, you
and
know,
Vader.
and Vader, yeah, and Grievous. You know, Grievous is just some organs in a tank, basically.
Very similar to how they did RoboCop in the reboot.
Yeah, yeah. That's definitely one thing I'll give the points to the reboot for.
Well, I like the fact I did like in the reboot that the way that they approached the like, well, yeah, yeah, he's got the human hand, but really we still can override every one of his functions and pretty much make the robot take over and then just pump him full of chemicals to make him think that he's doing the right thing. And
Yeah, yeah. Probably what they thought they were getting in the original movie. That's why they
yeah,
had Kane as Mark II. But yeah, so I don't know. I have obviously after so many movies, I have a hard time picturing anyone else. I know like visually, Alex Ross. If you ever see much of his artwork, he for those who don't know, he's a big comic book artist. Does lots of covers. Doesn't do a whole lot of interiors, but does some. He tends to draw characters based on actors. So like whenever he draws Batman, a lot of times it looks like Michael Keaton's Batman. Occasionally Adam West Batman. The Joker looks like Jack Nicholson. Superman looks like Christopher Reeve. Things like that. Wonder Woman tends to look like Linda Carter.
and
And so he draws Iron Man a lot of times looking like Timothy Dalton.
but I've noticed in a lot of the more recent animated shows for Marv or for that feature Iron Man, I think they a lot more mimic him after Robert Downey Jr. than
Yeah, oh
anything
yeah,
else.
I'm sure they do now because that's the people that are watching the cartoon are they more likely to have watched the movies or read the books? Like,
Now, have you ever seen the supposed if they had cast the Avengers in the '90s, what they would have been? And I think Tom Cruise was Iron
yeah,
Man. Um, oh gosh, I can't. Now I'm trying to remember off the top of my head who they had for everybody else because, um, but I mean, yeah, that's the only one I can think of right off the top of my head. It was like Tom Cruise was the
yeah, yeah. I've seen that Cruise was actually in talks to play Iron Man because it went through like 3 different studios before it finally found its way back to Marvel.
and I think there was some even thought that like when they were doing like the multiverse stuff to do
Well, I had heard that for Doctor Strange that he was going to be on the Illuminati and it was going to be Tom Cruise, but I guess it never really materialized. But no, like as far as appearance though, Timothy Dalton's pretty close. It's just that I don't know if he can have not a British accent.
well, the other one I read they shadowed here was Brad Pitt as Thor.
Oh, I could see that.
So
But yeah, I mean, now I'd have a hard time seeing anyone else. It's kind of like whenever I finally got around to reading the Dune novel, all I could see were the people from the 1984 Dune movie in the roles, for better or worse. You know, and now I'm having to adapt to this whole other movie that has different people entirely. Like basically half of Hollywood now. Like very large portions of the MCU and the DCU are in there. So
well, and it seems like the whole exclusivity between the MCU and DCU is like gone. Like it seems like they don't
yeah,
care as much.
I think it died a long time ago. I think what's his name that played Cyclops? Um, I can't think of his name off the top of my head. That's terrible. I think he was like the last real casualty in that salvo, where they were like, "Oh, you want to be in Superman Returns, huh? We're gonna kill you in the first 5 minutes of X-Men 3." Then,
Because I think they realize that being in a competing, in one or the other or both, doesn't really affect the sales of either.
right?
Because, and it makes me wonder if they don't plan out their release dates to make sure they stagger them from the Marvel version of.
Oh, I'm sure that the studios in general try to avoid super direct competition. That's why because they release fewer movies than they used to, and they each like stake out certain weekends here and there. And unless they're suicidal, they don't go up against each other. It just doesn't. That's why you get the counter programming of things like Barbenheimer, where you have two movies that are just absolute opposites in every way possible come out the same weekend. Because that way they're not really eating into each other's box office. You're either going to go watch one or the other. They didn't expect people to go watch both of them.
I mean, Barbie's $1 billion movie.
Yeah, yeah. That's all right. We still have Saw Patrol.
Yes, Saw Patrol will be coming up. Paw Patrol and Saw 10.
Yeah.
For one, that I've never really got into the Saw movies. Like the preview for Saw 10, like they had like I can't think what song they had playing in the background for that, but it was I don't know. It made me want to go and watch it because it seemed like they actually gave in the trailer a reason why. Because I guess what's his face went down to Mexico or somewhere to.
Have you seen any of the Saw movies?
Well, I know he was sick at one point, and he supposedly went down to Mexico to get cured. He didn't. They screwed him over, and it actually gives him a reason to have a reason to hold all these people now to.
Well, I mean, he has reasons in the other movies.
Well, I'm sure he does, but I'm saying is like from all the previews that I've seen.
That's why I'm asking, because the first one, several of the characters are connected to the U.S. hospital he went to where he got screwed. So.
And no, I have not. And me personally, like movies with maiming and stuff like that is not my forte.
Yeah, there's. Are you the one that told me that the bone snapping out is not?
Yes, I mean I'm telling you, like I follow back. It all started when I went to the theater to watch Dante's Peak, and there was a moment where Pierce Brosnan breaks his arm and his bone shoots out through his arm.
I think it's Saw 3 you definitely want to avoid.
So I try to stay away from those movies. I mean, it's unfortunate because I do like some of those types of movies because like I'm trying to think of the one that I watched again recently. I think it was Untraceable. I think it's the one. That's where it's a guy filming all of his stuff. And again, I think each person had some sort of connection to.
I don't know that I ever saw that one.
But I believe they do that on a YouTube, like on a YouTube type website or a dark web website.
Yeah.
And people.
Yes, the dark web.
And I could be wrong on that, if that's the right movie or not. Yes, it is. Yep.
But yeah. So.
Oh yeah, and the way that one works is the more people that view, the faster the person dies.
Oh. Well, there you go.
So kind of a neat concept because like one of them this person was sitting like in a vat of chemicals, and when they mixed in more chemicals, it just turned it into like battery acid, and just both electrocuted and dissolved the body kind of thing. So
yeah, in the Saw movies, it's kind of the general idea is Jigsaw will explain why you have been chosen, and then you're given a choice. You can do one thing that's probably going to maim you for life. or you can die. And usually the method of death is it's painful. Like, it seems like it'd probably be relatively quick, but it's going to be painful, you know. So you get a lot of twists and turns, and various characters in on certain aspects of things, and like the first movie, whenever I saw it, like everyone in the theater was like, whenever the big twist happens towards the end, everyone was like, "Oh my god, really?" So it was a hell of a thing. Also, one of the movies I'm not going to spoil. So yeah. So that same article also talked about Robert Downey Jr. has for a while now been trying to remake the movie Vertigo, the Alfred Hitchcock movie, and it was kind of interesting because he said he doesn't really want to touch the subject matter and all that. It's more a matter of he thinks movie technology is more advanced to actually get the audience to experience what Vertigo is really like. Um, and apparently it came about from he was rock climbing somewhere and like just totally froze up, and he said, that's more what it's like.
Is that what Mitch McConnell went through?
Yeah, Glitch McConnell. But yeah, he just like totally froze up and like he couldn't fall because of how high he was, but he wasn't sure of going up also, and he was just in that position of like, whatever I do, I might die right here. Like it just all hit him all at once, and
then Spock flew up in his rocket boots to save him.
Yeah, probably. Or Tom Cruise jumped off the cliff, had a parachute. It's like, I'll catch you. But no, if he does, I wish him luck. I hope it turns out better than the remake of Psycho, which was a shot-for-shot remake with can't even think of the guy's name that's in it now. I know Anne Heche was in it, but I don't know. I saw that. I've never watched all of the original, and I'm going to have to at some point because there's one thing that kept happening in the remake that just bugged the hell out of me. And if it's in the original, then I know it's intentional. It's like one of those things Hitchcock would do just to like throw you off. Every time someone got out of the car, they got out on the passenger side. They would slide across the seat and get out on the passenger side. I don't think I ever saw anyone actually get out of the car on the driver's side. They got in the car on the driver's side, but every time they'd get out on the passenger side. And it's just enough to be like, what the hell is going on here? And like, that's the kind of thing Hitchcock would do just to screw with the audience. So I think it's intentional, but I need to watch the original and see. But Vince Vaughn, that's who's in it, as the main guy, the psycho. But yeah, I just thought that was interesting. Hopefully he gets it done. I'm sure he's got the pull at this point. Hell, he could probably finance the movie with what he's made from the Marvel movies. But yeah, we'll see. I'm usually not for remakes, like unless there's something there that's worth pursuing. So in that case, maybe he's right. Or like I think after having watched The Black Hole a couple months ago, I think it's a movie ripe for a remake because you could definitely overhaul the effects, change the plot up a little bit, do things like that. Like you definitely lead into the horror and terror of what has happened and what's going to happen. I think you could definitely do a lot with that plot. So, just my thoughts though. So then there was one other article I read, or this was kind of tied up in the others. But apparently, and I didn't know this, so if you guys already knew this already, I'm sorry to bore you with this. Apparently, they filmed a scene for the beginning of Infinity War. It's a 45-minute long scene of Thanos getting the Power Stone. So presumably it's a massive attack on Xandar and getting the stone and everything. And they decided not to use it. They just jumped straight to, he's already got the stone and he's beating up the Asgardians already. And so they didn't finish the effects, but the footage is out there somewhere. And if I recall correctly, the article said was the reason they didn't include it was because they didn't expect the movie to be that popular. 10 years of movies leading into things, the last several entries, billion-dollar movies, they don't think the culmination of all that was going to be popular. And that's why the studios are stupid. But hopefully, at some point, they'll actually finish the effects and put it out there. Disney needs another win. Do that, re-release Infinity War and Endgame as a back-to-back double feature. In case you've got, 5 hours to spare. 6 hours, maybe. I'd go watch it. Hell, I watched. Let's see, what was it? Iron Man. It was Iron Man, the Hulk, Thor, Captain America, then Iron Man 2, all in one day, and then the last one ended at midnight, and the midnight show was the first showing of the Avengers. So 6 movies in one sitting. I can watch 2 in one sitting. That's not a problem. I never did go in for the theaters that were running all of them leading up to Endgame. I remember reading the articles. People were trying to decide which movies to sleep through, so they wouldn't have to leave the theater. The pretty unanimous consent was Thor 2 and I think Iron Man 2. But yeah, that's as far as movie news, that's about all I got. Jim, you got anything there?
I was just trying to think of a movie that I watched because you were mentioning Psycho, and I was like, I've recently watched one where I thought it was John Cusack was in it, but it takes place in a hotel where like all these people get flooded in, and they have to go to a hotel, and people just start randomly dying.
Yeah, John Cusack's in that.
What is that?
I can't think of the name of it, but John Cusack's in it. I know which movie you're talking about.
Because he's like a limo driver or something, and driving like a Britney Spears kind of person.
Yeah, yeah.
And now it made me think of it, and I was like, I should watch that. And it's been a little bit, but it was kind of those are kind of more of the horror type movies, just where it's more murder mystery or a thriller or something that's.
I personally prefer seeing characters I dislike die in horrific ways. So.
And not by snakes on an airplane.
I mean, the one guy I disliked was like eaten by a boa constrictor, so that wasn't pleasant for him.
I still prefer Anaconda, where the guy gets regurgitated and blinks.
Yeah, John Voight.
Yes,
quality acting right there. So I did recently watch Last Voyage of the Demeter. Check out our review on that. Sarah and I went to go see that. Short story. It's good. It's a decent horror movie. It is a horror movie, and not just snarky quipping people waiting to die. Overall, I thought it was good. Atmospheric. Nice. Check out the review.
And I think the one problem that is that I don't know if it's just the advertising, the timing, or what, but supposedly like all of vampire movies just aren't doing that good right now.
Well, no. I talked about this in a previous video.
Yeah.
Vampire movies and zombie movies are popular based on the economy. When the economy sucks, zombie movies are popular. When it's good, vampire movies are popular. And despite what they're telling us, it sucks. It's not good. So, zombie movies are what should be popular. But no one's putting any out at the moment.
I mean, I get why Renfield wasn't just smashing the box office, because, I mean, it's truly more like a comedy, and it should have.
I think people didn't know what to expect, Plus, there is always the X factor of Nicolas Cage playing Dracula, which I would think would draw people's curiosity, but maybe other people are like, I'm just not seeing it.
I don't know. I mean, honestly,
I liked it. I'm just saying,
like his look kind of made me reminisce on like Bela Lugosi as Dracula. Just. I mean, obviously without the pointed teeth, like.
Yeah, Bela Lugosi did not have the mouth full of needle teeth.
But his portrayal and the way he acted kind of made me think that. And I'm not saying it was like a, direct ripoff, but I think that's kind of what he was going for.
Especially in the scenes where it's literally supposed to be the Bela Lugosi, the black and white. Yeah.
Though I do, if you haven't seen it, I'd go watch it. I do like how they end him, and how they're like, well, just in case, we don't know if this is going to actually stop him.
That's Renfield, to be clear, everybody.
Renfield, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Last Voyage of the Demeter makes you think it's going to end differently, and then it's like, nah, not really. So, I did also recently watch Asteroid City. That is the latest from Wes Anderson. And I'm not going to spend this entire video explaining what Wes Anderson movies are like, but suffice to say, if you don't know, you need to watch his other movies. This is probably not for the novice Wes Anderson aficionado. You definitely want to see his other movies first to have a rough idea what you're getting into. Because it's not every movie where you have a movie that is essentially a narrated show talking about the background of a play that's going to be presented in the movie as the movie. So, like, there could be several points where you're like, what in the holy hell is happening here? And other assorted thoughts. But like half of Hollywood's in this movie. Also, maybe watch it if you're big fans of pastel coloring. It was good. I liked it, but I like Wes Anderson's movies. So, that just came to home video. I bought the Blu-ray and the double disc thing, but mainly bought it for the code to put on Vudu. And then finally, I went to go watch the 50th anniversary of Enter the Dragon the other night. So, like the pinnacle of Bruce Lee films. Quite excellent on the big screen. Obviously, it's before my time on the big screen, so I've seen it several other times on small screen, but it's really good on the big screen. Yeah, Bruce Lee was not a big fan of the like wuxia wire fighting baloney. It's like all people whooping ass hand to hand combat, up to and including the part where he definitely like breaks a guy. If you have seen the movie and you don't know, he fights a man named O'Hara who has a scar on his face, who's responsible for his sister's death. And O'Hara decides that, oh, this fight, I'm not done yet. And so they wanted it to look real. And so they're like, what do you mean real? And they're like, okay, Bruce, you can actually kick this guy like a real kick. He's like, you sure? Like, yeah. He goes, all right. And so it's where the guy stands up next to the crowd, and Bruce Lee does like a slow motion run towards him, and then drills him right in the chest, and it knocks him and like three guys behind him over. That is Bruce Lee actually kicking that guy full force, and I'm pretty sure he broke some of his ribs whenever he hit him. So, yeah.
Gotta go for the realism.
Yeah. Also, since this was put on by Fathom Events, which for those of you that don't know, they run older movies. Thanks to them, I've been able to watch the Transformers animated movie, the G.I. Joe animated movie, and Conan the Barbarian, among others, in theaters. They also run all the Studio Ghibli movies. I still need to go watch some of those. They have like an intro, and this one had Leonard Maltin talking about things. And apparently Jackie Chan's one of the stunt doubles that he murders in the big fight towards the end of the movie. So, like, if you pause it at one point, you can definitely see who it is. Yeah. So that was nice actually seeing that on the big screen. It was me, Chad, and three other people. Which is fewer people than we were at the G.I. Joe animated movie. You went to that, right?
No, I didn't go to that one. I went when we went to go see The Wrath of Khan.
That's what it was. That was another movie we went to go watch. We had the G.I. Joe movie. It was me, Chad, Julius, and like three other people. So, and now Chad and I went to go watch the Transformers animated movie, and we had a hard time finding two seats together. All the others I've gone, it's been like the theater's basically empty. So I don't know. I didn't know that the Transformers animated. I didn't know enough parents wanted to torture their children seeing Optimus Prime slowly die.
Yeah.
But
yeah. Speaking of that, the fact that he dies like that, and Ultra Magnus gets completely disassembled,
gets blown to bits. They put him back together, put some wax on him, and he's just fine.
So all you need to do is take him to the junk planet, I guess, and anybody can survive.
Yeah.
And there's all the other dead Transformers over there.
Yeah. Well, I saw the honest trailers for it, and they had a guy from Hasbro who's like, "Yeah, we were killing them off because I had to reintroduce the new toys," and they're like, "You heartless bastards." And then it's like, literally 2 months later, the return of Optimus Prime. It's like, I don't know. I didn't actually watch the Transformers cartoon all that much. I saw the movie all like over and over again. That's like where most of my animated Transformers knowledge comes from, because all the episodes I have seen are ludicrous.
So, like I say, for me and the boys, we finally got to watch Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
That's right.
And again, I don't want to get into a movie review on this because I mean, most people have seen it.
Jim, if I may interject for one moment, check out our earlier movie review where I believe Sarah and I, or me and somebody, went to go watch it. If you want an actual movie review.
Yeah, there you go. But I do want to at least explore the one thing that I've at least noticed with the movie was that the soundtrack. So the first two movies kind of focused on the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And the third movie focused on the 90s, because I was like, the one song I was like, when they were jumping out of the um, out in outer space and they're in their spacesuits, that they played Space Hog
Yeah.
in the meantime, and I was like, I had just kind of rediscovered that song not too long ago, and I was like, and then I realized at the very end, Rocket flips it to the 2000s,
Yeah.
as in the next volume.
Yeah. Although I did still like using "Crazy on You" for the intro to Adam Warlock, as he's just flying through space, heading towards them. So, of course, I prefer older music, so that's just me.
But no, I thought that was kind of neat what they did with the soundtrack. That they got a moth in here. I'm not just swiping the air here. I got a moth flying around me. Um, but no, I noticed that, and then at the very end, he flipped the zoom to 2000. So kind of like I said, the next volume or whatever. But I am curious though, because at the very end, I don't know if you noticed, but it said that Star Lord will return.
Yeah, my guess is they're going to put him on the Avengers since he's on Earth.
Yeah, and so I'm interested to see where that goes. And the thing is, like, if they made, I think movies of that quality, I think Marvel would be fine. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
I mean, I think a lot of people really expected James Gunn to just phone it in because it's his last movie, and he's like, fuck that. AAA material right here.
though, I mean, I think out of all of the Marvel movies, that the High Evolutionary has to be one of the most ruthless people in the MCU. Now, we were talking about this earlier before we got on the camera here, or video, or sound, or audio, or whatever we're on for you guys.
Whatever format you're enjoying this in, and whatever future year.
That if it was comic book Thanos, he was crazy because he just murdered half the universe just to impress a girl. But MCU Thanos,
and also he enjoyed what he did. He definitely murdered just to murder because he enjoyed doing it.
MCU Thanos is like, there's some people that kind of goes, I kind of agree with them.
Yeah, they gave him a reason that, at least for villain logic, makes sense, and that you can see like where he's coming from. Hopefully you totally disagree with his solution, but like you can at least see like, all right, I get what you're coming at here. Like your solution's totally crazy, but
even though I think some of the cutscenes never really led up to the fact that he wasn't crazy, because when he was like, fine, I'll do it myself. I mean, he was.
Yeah.
You could tell he was going to enjoy doing what he was going to do.
Yeah, well,
but then later he's just like, I don't know. I think the only thing he took any pleasure in was beating the Hulk senseless.
Yeah,
because he's like, I'm going to do this without any of the Power Stones, or Infinity Stones or whatever. But
well, I mean, he's one of the few guys that can fight the Hulk, and potentially win. I know Apocalypse beat him once, beat some sense into him to get him to listen to him.
But so far in the MCU, I mean, like I said, Ultron, I think to a point was batshit whatever. But I mean, they just kind of gloss over the fact that High Evolutionary just merged an entire planet full of people, like it's like you're working at work and you're like, oh, I need to scrap this whole project and start a new one.
Like the M. Bison quote.
So he just took Counter Earth, moved it over to the recycle bin, but instead of moving to the recycle bin, went ahead and said, just go ahead and permanently delete it. And
it was the most important day of their lives. For him,
it was a
Tuesday. Oh, Raul Julia, we lost a hell of a man there.
That's the greatest line.
This is possibly the greatest movie line ever.
Except for, well, I'll just say that if you haven't seen the Street Fighter movie, the original Street Fighter movie, you have to, because you've got, I mean, that's the top line, followed closely second by where they're watching their almost intimate destruction from a truck full of explosives.
Zangief,
watching the TV of this truck rolling down with explosives in it into the place that they're sitting at currently, and his comment is, "Hurry, change the channel."
Oh, I also like that followed up with the, "Wait, you got paid?"
That's number 3.
Yeah, no, if we ever get around to doing the diamonds in the rough idea that I've batted around a few times, that's going to be an entry, because even though the movie's terrible, there's some stuff in it that's great.
But see, they were able to take a terrible movie, make it enjoyable, but then they took took that movie and then turned it into a terrible game, which maybe we'll do a review on that because I do have Street Fighter the movie, the game, for the Sega Saturn.
I would have to wonder, not to diverge here too much, but how is that not just a reskin of like Street Fighter 2?
Well, one is that they try to do the like Mortal Kombat. They did the um, the screen captures or the photo.
Oh, okay.
You know, and unfortunately, they didn't like
Guess
skin
in
it.
the '90s that wasn't the easiest thing in the world to attempt.
Well, if somehow they got it to work with the Street Fighter like engine or whatever, I think it would have been fine. But it was very choppy and not very smooth, and just um, and then they like threw in just random characters that weren't even in the movie, kind of thing. So
I'm kind of glad, unless I'm mistaken, I'm glad Mortal Kombat had the sense to not do that.
now Mortal Kombat finally moved away from that, and weirdly enough, I've been seeing. I don't know if it's released yet or not, but Mortal Kombat One, because of what happened in I think it was Mortal Kombat 11. Uh, Liu Kang merged with Raiden to become Fire God and reset the entire timeline back to Mortal Kombat 1.
Hmm. These people just can't accept that Shao Kahn is going to defeat them.
Yeah, that's there's Mortal Kombat 11. The final guest stars that they had, like the special characters, they had Spawn, Rambo, the Terminator. So you can have Rambo versus the Terminator.
Isn't RoboCop in there
Yeah,
somewhere?
RoboCop's in there. I think that's there may be some other ones, and like before that they had uh, Jason, Leatherface, the
Now,
Alien,
does
and Predator.
is 11 the one that uses the voices of the people from the movie? Or something?
That I don't know. I don't
Because I know one of them has Kerry Tagawa does Shang Tsung, and I think they got Robin Shooter do Liu Kang, and I don't know if they got. I think they got Christopher Lambert to do Raiden. Although there, I guess he had a choice, him or James Remar, but I would have gone with Christopher Lambert. More distinct voice. James Remar is a decent actor. I like him. He was originally supposed to be in Aliens. Did you know that?
I did not.
He was going to play Hicks, and whenever they're over there in England getting ready to film, well, apparently they take the drug laws a little seriously, and they caught him with some heroin, because apparently it's some grade A material over there, so he got fired, and Cameron's like, all right, Michael Biehn, I'm in a movie set, I need you here tomorrow. What are we filming? Just get here. All right, I'm on the next plane. And he shows up and he's Hicks. That's why his outfit, like his outfit wasn't personalized like with his stuff. It was like James Remar, like they all kind of personalized their Marine stuff, and yeah. If you folks have never seen it, there's the movies that made us on Netflix. Like there's like 3 seasons of it. One of them's all about aliens. It's pretty interesting. But yeah, I think it's better on the movie front. The book front, I just have a couple quick notes. I am still reading the BattleTech novel I was in the middle of reading. That now I can't think of the title of it. So check the last episode where I'm pretty sure I mentioned the title. Hour of the Wolf, that's what it's called. And I'm now to the second part of the book. So the Republic has been demolished, and now Clans Wolf and Jade Falcon are getting ready to fight for the Ill Clan ship. Kind of interesting, towards the end of the Republic there, one of their bases was just outside of Indianapolis, and because all the action moved to North America, and then they had to go to their final holdout base just outside of Detroit, and that is where they ultimately surrendered to the two clans. So the book's been interesting, pretty interesting so far. You keep seeing a bunch of side notes from the other powers within the Inner Sphere. The last one just before this phase was Doshin Lao and Yuri Kirita, as they're the closest, as Doshin Lao is the one that could potentially take Terra from the clans. Potentially. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, so the second phase of the fighting is about to begin, in other words. And once the book's done, once I'm done reading it, I'll give you guys a full review of it. So that's about it I got on the book front. On the gaming front, it would appear that Wizards of the Coast is in the midst of an AI art scandal of sorts. One of their upcoming books, the Big B's Giants, Legend of the Giants, whatever the hell it's called, Big B Giants, They've already screwed up the lore and turned Bigby into a halfling when he is clearly a human for no discernible reason. Then, yeah, some of the artwork in it is apparently AI generated. And I guess if you buy the book on D&D Beyond, they've already taken that art out. To get it, to actually see it, you'll have to buy a physical copy of the book. And future prints will have different art. They've already commissioned a different artist for it. But they've said that it's a guy they've worked with for years and years, and this is the only parts that they're pretty sure they used AI, and they're going to be implementing things to make sure people don't use AI because they don't want to use AI art because there's some potential issues with it because of how it works. Because you know how it works, right?
Yeah, because it takes a mashup of other images, so there's always a possibility that there is.
Yeah.
It would be very similar to you tracing from it. Which, speaking of which, and I don't know the comic book artist, but there
Greg
is,
Land.
Yes.
I already know where you're going with this. I know. I was going to bring him up if you didn't. Yeah.
Because of his big thing was tracing pretty much for women. He would trace porn.
Yes. Now he's at the point that he traces his older pictures. And the man still gets all kinds of work. And people love his covers. Like I've seen all kinds of like really popular Spider-Man comic covers. It's a Greg Land picture that he traced from something else.
And the thing is that you can look through the book and see multiple characters with the exact same expressions doing the exact same thing. Now, don't get me wrong. Using picture references is important because, a lot of people knowing how an expression is going to look from a certain angle is not an easy thing to do. And I 100% agree that people should use references for that.
Yeah.
And even tracing is not always a terribly bad thing. If you're like, okay, I'm going to trace this person's face kind of to get this right structure, but then make it unique, in certain ways. Like you're like, okay, I'm going to trace the jawline the way that they have their mouth agape or whatever. For whatever reason, all of his women have their mouths just gaped open.
Well, remember what you said you traced it from.
Yeah, I know. Well, that and this one reviewer I was watching was doing a review of it was a crossover between the Ultimates and the Squadron Supreme.
Ultimate Power.
Yes, and
I have those books.
And one of the members of Squadron Supreme was always doing the splits.
I'll have to check that, but now that you mention it, like I can picture a couple of the covers in my head, and they're definitely Greg Land covers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of on two things you hit on there. I mentioned Alex Ross earlier. Alex Ross uses photographs for reference. He has someone like dress up as the character and everything. Then he gets a picture of it because Alex Ross paints his panels. He doesn't draw them. Well, he draws them, but then he paints them. So they have a distinct look. They're not colored and shaded like normal comics. They're painted. And if you buy I think it's the Kingdom Come graphic novel, it's got a thing in the middle that shows you how his process works. But yeah, but also on the other side, I'm pretty sure the BattleTech artists at least used to take heavy inspiration from other things. Like I don't remember who it is, but one of them is literally just the picture of Sean Connery from The Hunt for Red October, like medals and all. And then it just made his face just look a little bit different, and it's him. And I think Natasha Karinsky, is occasionally drawn like Linda Hamilton, and like they very clearly take inspiration from real world.
Well,
people.
I mean, video game art I can tell you the old NES art was notorious for doing that because Metal Gear for the NES is Michael
Biehn. Yeah.
The Contra was both Rambo, so Sylvester Stallone and Arnold.
From Predator or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
For Contra, the cover.
Makes sense.
But I mean, yeah. So it's not a new thing. I mean, people definitely.
Yeah, I think I'm torn because I think the big difference is that they took just actual original works of art and did that. It's different taking a picture and doing that, especially if you change things about it.
Yeah, and as I said, I mean, I think tracing to a point to get like a general expression and then updating it to make it unique.
Yeah.
But you shouldn't be able to flip through a book and say, okay, well, here's Scarlet Witch, and then here's this other woman who has the exact same face as her, 2 pages later.
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's some times where like the people would look exactly the same. Like all the women would look exactly the same. Just Sue Storm has blonde hair, and then this person has red hair, but it's the exact same model, exact same
Yeah,
person.
there's a couple Gregland. I can't think of the women that are on them, but they definitely like look exactly the same except for the costume. Same stance, same pose, everything.
But
And
though
but
I'm,
yeah, I mean he keeps getting work, so I guess the comic industry doesn't care.
I don't
I
want.
know other artists call him out for it, and I'm sure he's just like, screw you, I'm making money. Like
Yeah,
it's still Marvel and DC. It's like Rob Liefeld. Everyone says Rob Liefeld's a terrible artist. Rob Liefeld has made a fortune being a terrible artist. You
yes.
know, I
You figure with
I
all,
wish I had even his level of talent. Which I'm going to be crystal clear here, folks. I think Rob Liefeld actually does have talent. He can draw far better than I can. It's just that things are kind of exaggerated.
he can't draw feet.
Can't draw feet. Although he's definitely like in on the joke. Because did you ever see the comic for Pouch Man? It's just a guy made up of pouches. Because everyone complained like he can't draw feet, draws wildly exaggerated proportions, and all of his characters have all kinds of belts and pouches everywhere. So he made a comic just called Pouch Man, just a guy made up of pouches with a pouch gun that I think shoots pouches. And it's just like once I saw it, I was like, all right, Rob's in on the joke. He understands. So yeah, he's one of the guys I'd actually kind of like to meet. He sounds like a cool guy. But yeah, so AI art scandal. I haven't been watching the guy I was hate watching for a while, because I'm kind of interested in what his take on this is. Because a few months ago he was like, "See, Wizards of the Coast is superior. They're going to let the AI design stuff." Because he's like pretending like the AI is like Skynet or something, even though it's not even actually AI. It's in no way, shape, or form even close to sentient. And he's acting like it's actually like a producer in and of itself. He's like, "Look at Pathfinder. They've outlawed it. Why would they do that? That's like that episode of Star Trek when they went to dismantle Data." And I'm like, "It is nothing like that, you stupid moron." But yeah, so now that his beloved Wizards of the Coast is doing it, I'm willing to bet he's going to do a total like 180, not even acknowledge the other stuff, and go like, "Well, of course they're going to outlaw it. It was only people should be doing this." I bet money he's going to do that, or just not acknowledge it.
And to be clear, I think it's perfectly fine to get inspiration from AI art. Like say, okay, generate this, and then like, oh, that's kind of cool. I never thought about that, and then drawing your own unique perspective
Yeah.
on whatever it did. And I don't mean again, not tracing it. Just
Yeah.
you're using it as
No, I totally drew this. It just happens to look exactly like what this one did. Yeah. You don't want to do that.
because I think I think a lot of that, and even I've messed around with a little bit of like the AI chats and stuff, and I mean,
I should at some point.
it's interesting to see just the perspective and what they interpret things as. Because I mean, a lot of it is they interpret everything just black and white. Like you ask for something, that's what it's going to give you. And
Well, I do think, I don't know if it's there yet, because I haven't fiddled around with it myself, but I do think we are going to get to the point where people are going to use it to help them be creative, like on the writing front. They're going to sit there and they're going to be like, okay, I've got this, read this, give me some ideas where to go from here, or like my characters are stuck here, throw me some ideas, things like that, or in the case of like the writer's strike, it'll be have the AI spit out a rough draft and then have actual writers work it into something functional, which I think will be an improvement of the current crap they churn out. But,
yeah, I mean, I think it's great for inspiration. It can't be the derivative of everything, but I mean, I think having the a basic outline for a story or whatever. 'Cause I think like my problem is like I could come up with a story, I just can't do the nuance to make it like actual human interaction. It's just like, okay, here's my idea of a story, but it would all be he, she said,
yeah, he said, she said, then this happens, these things happen, then this thing, yeah. Yeah, the transitioning and making it sound good, that's the hard part. That's Levi. He's excellent at things like that. I've thought about being like, Levi, here's my ideas. Like, here's my rough draft. Do your magic on it. We'll co-author this.
I mean, that's what editors technically do.
Yeah. But no, I think a lot of these AI ideas, I think they're ultimately going to wind up as like plugins and parts to other programs, is what it's going to be.
Well, I mean, right now, like Grammarly is technically like an AI because
Yeah,
it looks
yeah,
at your
yeah, something like that, you know, but
and I
but more into it, more of like the where should I go from here, you know.
yeah.
So I think that's really where that's heading. I think there's other things that are going to be totally automated, but yeah, we'll see. I mean, we're at the late phase of the people that manufactured horse whips and whatnot trying to fight the automobile coming. Like it's going to come. We're all just going to adapt to it. But anyway, so I think it's better than gaming. You got anything?
I don't know because I'm not playing any games at the moment. Been debating on trying to figure out how to bring my because right now my all my video games and all that stuff is not here at the house. Um, long story short, I have not moved it over to my current house because divorce and all that lovely stuff. I was living at my parents for a little bit, got a house here, and doing a lot of remodeling work to the house. So I don't have a dedicated spot to really put this stuff. But looking at trying to put together a game room here, and eventually, if I get that, then actually moving the recording into that area so that we actually have stuff, neat stuff behind us.
Yes, Sarah has repeatedly told us that we need more stuff in the background.
Hey,
So
I've got
that is a work in progress, and I agree with her. It's
for
work.
people watching. I've got a plant in my Virtual Boy back here. So
This is more than we had over at the other place. There we just had a wall that reflected light and caused the auto zoom to screw up.
well, heck, I mean, I even think with like the bench here and the table and stuff makes definitely filming a little bit easier.
Yeah.
So
But yeah, I don't know. I was thinking the other day maybe we should do a retrospective type thing on some of the first few Mario games, maybe.
yeah.
Because they're ones I've played enough to have an opinion, and you know all the background on Mario 2 and the business there, so.
Yes, yes. Yeah, for sure. You could do that. You could go even playing Mario on the Atari. And I've got Mario Brothers for the for the Atari
Oh yeah, I guess I
2600.
should have specified Super Mario Brothers, but we'll if we do it, we'll mention Mario Brothers too.
Yeah, because there's a couple of retrospectives I'd like to do. Like I said, I want to do one on Metroid Prime. While I have played Metroid Prime 2, I've never actually went through and beat it. I think I had an issue where I got so far, like I was like an hour in and realized I didn't save it and died. And that's one of those
Yeah,
ones you just kind of you set it down. You're like, I'm gonna go over here for a little bit.
I have a game on the Xbox, might be on the 360, but I know I think it's on 360, where I no, it's a regular Xbox. It's like a medieval like mass battle kind of game, and like I overrode the save for the next one, but it was after I had to decide what kind of soldiers I was going to bring, and I misunderstood the mission, and so like I don't have a previous save because I was just overriding the saves,
Yeah.
and I've got the wrong soldiers. I tried it like 8 or 9 times. Like you cannot beat this level with the soldiers I brought. They're just the wrong kind of guys to deal with it. And it got to the point where I just got super pissed off and smashed the controller into the floor, and because it was in like a gaming chair type thing. So I didn't throw it very far. It flew about this far, but that meant it had all of its momentum behind it. And yeah, so long story short, my I had a 2-pack of Jedi and Sith controllers, and the Sith controller doesn't work anymore. So
I've been there. I've snapped a controller before.
probably appropriate it was the Sith controller in that particular instance, but
You let the hate flow through it.
yeah, it floated through me right into the controller and into the floor. But so yeah, it's done for. But like for Zelda, I'm just going to go ahead and tell you right now. If we get into that, the only one I can really speak on is the one on the Super Nintendo,
Link to the Past.
Link to the Past, and also the Minish Cap if you want to go into the Game Boy Advanced. But Link to the Past, because I've barely played like 1 and 2 on the regular Nintendo.
Yeah, I've got some. I've got at least or at least one Zelda game that I haven't played yet. That I didn't even realize I had. This is how bad it is. Like I'm going through my games. I'm like, I didn't even know I had this. And one of them was with my Game Boy games because I finally got a storage solution to be able to display my Game Boy games. So I started putting them in there. and I had Zelda: The Oracle of Ages, which is like a $70+ game supposedly according to the pricing charts.
Hey, I find I've been going through all the crap over my house trying to like eliminate stuff that I know I'm never going to do anything with. And I told you about the Gundam figures I found, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going through my Gundam figures and I come across two of them that are worth like $100 a pop. Crazy. So I was like, well, to eBay we go
Well,
because they're not doing me any good.
well, Bobby, you got me at least one item in my collection that I've wanted because it's from the local game store here in town. Because at the time when the local game store was closing down, or they were selling all their older
Oh
product.
yeah, the video store whenever they sold all the Super Nintendo games.
Yeah.
That I asked them for years. I was like, hey, can I just buy some of these games from you? No, people rent them. I go, no, people don't rent them. I rent them. Like, maybe one or two other people rent them. Like, they're always in when I come in. So I know no one else is renting them. And I only want like 4 or 5 of them. No, we can't sell them. The next thing I know, someone else owns it because some things happened that I still don't get the full story to. And next thing I know, they're like, oh, they're like $3 a piece or $5 a piece. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me? And someone else had already rated most of them. I know who it was too, by the way.
Yeah, and I didn't.
Not you. I wouldn't point at you.
No, no, because I didn't have any in my collection, so I wanted one for nostalgia purposes. So I did buy War of the Gems from Bobby, and yeah, it's just I wanted to own a piece of that history because it was a weekend thing going to pick up. Hell, even renting the console.
Also, I also sold you Mega Man X2, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, because I have 2 functioning Super Nintendos. Although one, like, the thing's faulty, I use the other one if I ever actually use it. But once I bought the Super Nintendo Mini, I can live without collecting the cartridges, and I found out how to load the other ROMs onto it. So mine has like 70 games on it. So
I got to figure out how many Super Nintendos I have because I know I have at least one that's not working. I have at least one model, the Model 1, and I say the Model 2, but they call it the Super Nintendo Junior. I've got one of those as well.
What's the difference?
It's just a more compact design.
Okay. So more like the Super Famicom?
Yeah. So some point I'm gonna bring some of the stuff that I have, some of the consoles I have in the box, because I do have multiple consoles in the box. One I'm gonna do is gonna be a 2 unboxings in one video because it's the same console, just in 2 different boxes.
All right.
One is, and I may end up doing a retrospective on the Sega Genesis because I've got all 3 models of the Sega Genesis. The Model 3 is the I don't know, the bastard child.
Are they coming out with, or have they come out with the Mini for the Sega CD?
No, what they did is they made an attachment for the Sega Genesis.
No. I mean,
no.
Oh, it is okay. So
for the Sega Genesis Mini, they made an attachment where you can attach a CD drive to it, but it does nothing. And you can also put a 32X on it. It does nothing. It's just visual.
Well, I was just wondering because I thought I had read that they were going to do that because one of the games was Night Trap because everyone was like, Night Trap. Wasn't that game banned for a while?
Well, Night Trap was one of the 2 games that caused the ESRB rating to be implemented.
Yeah.
The other one was Mortal Kombat.
Yeah. Having played them both, I can see it.
It's just still funny to think that the original Mortal Kombat for the Super Nintendo did not have blood. And for the Sega one, it didn't come with blood initially.
You had to put the code in.
You had to put the blood code in to get blood. And the blood is just like, it didn't like it pulled out everywhere. It wasn't like because the arcade, like when you would punch somebody, like blood would just splatter everywhere. Yeah. Though they still had when you like would do some of the fatalities, like people would explode into multiple bones, like thousands of bones. They'd have like 3 rib cages and 4 skulls when you would explode them.
Well, that's what happens when you get blown up,
Yeah.
So I'm told. But yeah, so I just I remember reading the thing about that Night Trap was one of the games, and everyone was like, really? Night Trap, huh? That's a bold choice. Yeah. So.
Yeah,
I never got very far in that game.
Well, and I've never played it. With all the games I've played, never played that one. But
it's like all cinematic cutscenes and then choices you make, and then.
But what it does remind me of, at least, kind of, is Voyeur for the Philips CDI.
Oh, that reminds me. I never did take you to the booth that had it there at Gen Con, but there was someone that had a burn cycle game, like a board game.
Yeah, but it's not for the. It's not based off of Burn Cycle.
Is it not?
No,
Just the name.
it's just
for
the
something
name.
else entirely. Yeah, I because I saw it and I was like, man, you're only about 25 years too late.
Yeah, some point we'll have to do some talking about the Philips CDI because we'll have to just look through the games that I have, and I say games, and I'm doing air quotes here for the people listening because the Philips CDI is the CD Interactive. They weren't all games. Some of them were interactive books.
Oh, okay.
And one of the interactive books I have is The Joy of Sex.
Well,
If I'm going to have any, I guess that's the one I need.
I was gonna say I only ever played two: Burn Cycle, and it was based on an anime series. I want to say it is like Captain Harlock, maybe something. I don't know, but anyway.
No, but the one I was talking about, the Voyeur, is very similar to Night Trap because you're looking at an apartment across the road of a presidential candidate, and you're trying to get dirt on him.
Oh,
And it's one of these like you can like send like a notification to somebody like because you find out like maybe in one event because there's different events that'll happen. So you play it one time, it'll turn out one way. You play it next time, it's a different story. And in one of them, like there's going to be somebody getting killed or whatever. And if you report it to the wrong person, they'll come over and kill you.
well,
So,
there you go.
I mean, it's one of those titles where like when you first see it, it's called Voyeur. You're like, well, it is pretty risque because there's definitely points where there's adult interactions happening. You don't see anything, but you know that it's happening.
Yeah.
Because I think there's even one where it's like, yeah, I don't even want to get into it because it's like very inappropriate. It's like nothing illegal.
But something that belongs more in like Leisure Suit Larry
or Alabama, if that would tell you.
All right. On that note, I think we're going to move on to the streaming category here. So let's talk about like the big upcoming thing here first. Well, let me ask you one quick question. Have you seen the end of Secret Invasion yet?
I have not.
Okay, we'll move on. So coming up, probably going to be right around the time this episode airs, is when Ahsoka is going to premiere on Disney Plus.
Yeah, supposedly they said it was supposed to be the 23rd of August, but they said now it's moved up to the 22nd for whatever reason. I don't know if maybe it's a conflict with Loki or something. Who knows? But they moved it supposedly to the 22nd. And right before recording, we went ahead and rewatched the trailer just to kind of get our minds fresh on it. On that, and honestly, I mean, at least visually, I think I'm looking forward to it. I mean, they're actually bringing ships back into things. I mean, Star Wars, I think about Star Wars, they're actually very little fighting in space, and it looks like they're trying to remedy that into some capacity.
Yeah, and it looks like we've got most of the cast of Rebels from the looks of things. So, that's nice.
I'm on board for that. There's some connectivity and stuff,
and we have Thrawn. So here's hoping. For those of you not watching this, my fingers are definitely crossed, because I'm personally a big fan of Thrawn from the books. So really hope they don't screw him up.
I'm a big fan of Thrawn from TIE Fighter, the video game, or the PC game.
Yeah, because he created the TIE Defender, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. And tried to convince Palpatine, like, don't build a Death Star, just build 20,000 more Star Destroyers. Like, it'll be way more effective. He was probably right, but, Yeah, I don't know. It looks good to me. I'm curious to know what the story is with the two somewhat Sith-like characters is going to be.
Well, I mean, the possibilities is that they were Inquisitors that were left over. I mean, who knows? I mean, they could have been many fallen Jedi. I mean, the one thing that they never really talked about was that there were dark Jedi. They were, they're not full-blown Sith lords. They don't practice the Sith culture, but they're definitely, because you normally have like three types of Jedi. You have light, you have the light, you have the gray, and then you have the Dark Jedi's. I could be wrong on the terminology, but
Well,
your Yodas and stuff would be your
yeah, I was gonna say I think the big breakdown is you have your Force users who aren't very well trained. Okay, you've
yeah
got them out there. That can be minor talents or it could be major talents that just never got trained. Then you have the Jedi, which is like a specific path of training.
yeah
Then you have the dark side users, which could be fallen Jedi, could be people that weren't trained, and then the subset of them is the Sith, who follow a very specific.
yeah
They're the opposite religious number to the Jedi. The others are just kind of out there. They just kind of exist, and the Gray Jedi.
because I mean the way that I look at it is that like the from the movies, probably the most famous Gray Jedi would be Qui-Gon. He was in the things because he definitely toted the line that sometimes you just have to do what needs to be done for the greater good,
Yeah,
but still wouldn't go to the point of like murdering people. Anakin, on the other hand, what I would say would fall almost towards the Dark Jedi, the way he. Because I mean, definitely in the Clone Wars show, there was at least one time he just straight up murdered somebody. He's like, what, he was going to blow up this, blow up the whatever, and just lightsaber through the back. Guys
yeah,
holding the bomb detonators.
yeah. Yeah.
And it's like,
Between that and his comments on like, the leaders should be forced to do these kinds of things, and it's like, well, I don't know, like that's not quite how it works there, Anakin. But
I did like though. Again, at some point we're going to have to talk about TIE Fighter because honestly, I can't rave enough about it. I mean, if I had to go back to all my favorite PC games, TIE Fighter was probably my favorite PC game to keep going back to and playing. It wasn't the best out of the flight simulation because that would probably go to X-Wing Alliance because X-Wing Alliance allowed you to pretty much fly any ship and do about anything you wanted to in it.
yeah, I just wish I would have bought a joystick to use for that before I like ran the hell out of the mouse. Since it's space combat, you have to loop a lot,
Yeah.
and you're just sitting there like trying to turn over. And I didn't buy a joystick till I had to for like MechWarrior 3.
Well, I say the big advancement between X-Wing, the first X-Wing game, and TIE Fighter was the fact that you could press enter to match speed of your target. You couldn't do that in X-Wing. Like you couldn't match their speed. You had to try to figure out how to adjust the speed or whatever. But anyways, the story in TIE Fighter is you start off as a TIE Fighter pilot, and you're working for the Empire. And I think this is one thing that a lot of media always portrayed. Like they had to portray the Empire as just nothing but evil, evil people, not realizing that there were just some regular people that were just going to work.
well, yeah, the vast majority of the Empire would have to just be people. The bureaucracy, even the stormtroopers, would just be conscripts from other worlds.
Because there's one particular mission, and because you talk about Anakin's message there, is that there's a civil war, and so this is probably some point after when they dissolve the Senate, because you have to go and put an end to a civil war, and their solution is literally just capture both of their leaders, sit them at a table, and make them, come to some agreement or whatever. And while the tactics are probably not as diplomatic as the Republic would have done, it got things done. I mean, sometimes you just have to, force people to sit down and talk.
Yeah.
Because as long as they're, in their respective castles, they're going to keep fighting until you put them in a situation where they kind of have to talk things out, or they're not going to be.
Well, that is one of the things I really liked about Andor, was that it showed that the people within the Empire are people. Like, yeah, some of them know for a fact they're on Team Evil, but they're still complicated individuals. They're not just sitting there just cackling insanely mad like the Emperor is most of the time. They're not just over the top evil like Tarkin. There are people that, for whatever reason, they've thrown in their lot with the Empire, but they still have, complex motivations and interests and everything else.
Like the one guy at that base, I don't think he was an evil, whatever. He was just a family man. He had his kid there, and his wife. And...
Yeah, he's pro Empire, but he was like, he was upset whenever they shot one of his subordinates, and then he's like, hey, look, I'm just he's like telling his wife, like, look, we got to do this, then we can move closer to the in a better position, for us and our son, and like he was just trying to I hate to say just following orders because I know what that sounds like, but you know
Well, the thing is that
when you're if you're in like the core systems, the Empire doesn't look like the villain. The Empire just looks like what the Republic turned into, and everything still appears to be running smoothly. It's really in the outlying systems where they're fighting the rebellion that you can see, like, oh, you see the heavy hand of oppression of the Empire, like how Andor's just randomly arrested and like, well, you're guilty, you're going to prison for 4 years, see you later, and he's like, what? Like, that doesn't happen in the core systems. That happens out in the outlying systems. And that's why most of the action in the movies takes place out there.
well, and that could also be the fact that you have a single empire trying to control
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
And at some point, I'm not saying again, not saying it's right, not saying anything like that, but you have to understand that like out there, it's like you don't have the time to look through things. It's like you're already stretched thin. You're just like it's easier just to condemn somebody versus
Yeah. Again, not at all advocating that, but that is how one of those types of situations works. I mean, that's how it works under feudalism. You got the king at the top, then you have the local lords, and the local lords are given pretty free reign on what to do, just as long as the peasants don't rise up. So that leads to
yeah, because
that leads to violent excess sometimes.
because if you don't, if you I mean, if you're nothing but evil, people are gonna rise up. That's no way. I mean, to run an empire, you want people to be happy to an extent with your rule, because then, and I think again, that's one thing Andor did very well, where they also showed that the rebellion isn't just nothing but nice people. Sometimes they'll do things that, I mean, that can
Yeah, well,
they can hurt people that like the wife and the kid. I mean,
yeah,
they're forever scarred now. They're gonna hate the rebellion.
that's assuming they're still alive. I kind of got the impression that woman shot them, but no, there was Skarsgård, Stellan Skarsgård. His speech there towards the end, like that was like, first of all, that was like an Academy Award winning speech. You guys should watch that. If you haven't seen Andor, you should watch the whole thing. It's great. But where he goes on, where he basically explains that like he got into this with high-minded ideals, but now he's so far in, he knows he's going to have to do the same things the Empire does. He's going to be just as evil as they are. At which point he's going to have to question, what am I even doing?
I mean, pretty much he was gonna kill Cassian.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. Like he shows that there's what's the expression? Don't hunt monsters lest ye become one, essentially, because at a certain point, to win, you have to be as ruthless as your enemy. At which point, you no longer have the moral high ground. Like, and then at the end, it only matters who wins,
Yeah,
and then that's what it always devolves to.
I
So
mean, Cassian. I mean, his story is tragic.
yeah,
I mean, I don't think that guy got a break, and then the very end, he gets annihilated by the Death Star. So
yeah, I did think that was the only mistake in that movie. I don't think they need to kill those characters off. They could have easily shifted them around, been like, after this, why aren't they attacking the Death Star? Because they're trying to find the next base. Like, they're on the mission to find the Hoth base, Why aren't they over here? Because they're over here doing this. Then at the end, like, well, why aren't they on the attack run on the other Death Star? Maybe they've retired by then, or maybe they're off doing rebel. Maybe they're the ones the Empire's chasing vainly across the galaxy.
I mean, pretty much after they destroyed the first Death Star, I mean, that would be the point of like, hey, our plan's done. What we wanted to get done is avenged, and it would be fine for them to step out.
Yeah, we're going back to Galen Erso's farm. We're out.
No, don't get me wrong. I still give them credit for wiping out everybody because that's
I mean, it's a bold move, similar to the end of the Mist. It's a bold ending, but I just think it was kind of unnecessary there. Totally necessary in the Mist, though. That was awesome.
Yes, and you do need to watch the Mist. I'm not going to spoil that one. If you haven't watched it, if you have, obviously don't spoil it because it's one of those ones that if you haven't, great movie. It's a good movie when Stephen King says that he likes the ending better than his own book.
Yeah. So yeah, so look forward to us doing some stuff on the Ahsoka show once it starts running. Do you know if it's 6 episodes,
That I do
or is
not.
it, or Star Wars ones are usually 10, aren't they? 8, 10, somewhere there. I know Andor was 12, and I think it's the longest one, but I don't think Ahsoka's gonna be 12. I wouldn't think it would be. I don't know.
I'll see if they give any feedback on the number of episodes. I'm going to search for episodes.
Well, Jim, while you're doing that, are we done talking about Ahsoka?
It looks like 7 episodes.
7 episodes. All right.
At least according to Google. So if that's not the case, blame Google.
Blame Google. That's probably going to increase in the future. But anyway, so I watched a couple movies on Netflix, though.
Okay.
Watched another zombie movie. For those of you keeping score at home, you're going to notice a trend eventually in the movies I watch on Netflix and where else. This is called Valley of the Dead. This takes place during the Spanish Civil War. So, there are the fascists under Franco, the communists, and the Nazis all involved in this. Essentially, the Nazis create a chemical to reanimate the dead as flesh-eating zombies. And they test it in this region of Spain. And they're going to like bomb the area because it succeeded, but they're going to wipe out the zombies because they can't let them get out. And so you have a ragtag group of the pro-Franco group and the communists who have to come together because, like, well, you know, if we're fighting against the dead, like, we're all targets. So there's a whole lot of them trying to, like, come together as a group, and they finally do. To the point that, like, even at the end, you know, a couple of them, right before they get blown up, are like, long live Spain, and one of them's like, well, which one, mine or yours? He goes, whichever one survives this, you know, then they blow up. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that happens. Like, it's obvious that both sides know that, you know, it's not going to go well for one of their two sides at the end of this. And the communists apparently also have a similar weapon already. So it was interesting, the placement of it, you know, because usually the zombie movies are in the modern day. And it's far enough back, well, it's modern enough they still have, you know, machine guns and modern weapons. But it takes them a while to realize they got to hit them in the head to bring them down. And yeah, it was interesting. I think it's a Spanish movie because it's in Spanish. I watched it dubbed, but it was entertaining. A lot of some quips along the way that were appropriate for the characters. Like the zombie movies of old, not many people walk out of this one. But yeah, I thought it's entertaining. So if you like zombie movies and or are a fan of the Spanish Civil War era, check it out. Spoiler alert, for those of you that don't know history, Franco and the fascists won, and Franco ruled till like the 80s or 90s. So, man lived a long time. Then the other movie I watched, which was just last night on Netflix, was Blood Red Sky. There is a movie about an airplane flight where there are some criminals on board who are going to do something, and it's never even clear what the hell they're trying to accomplish. But they're going to jump off the plane and possibly blow up the plane or something. And one of the passengers happens to be a vampire who is going to the United States to try to get some kind of treatment to become human again. And she has her son with her. And because her son is an absolute idiot, like literally at every turn, he picks the worst possible choice he could possibly make. Whenever they're like, all right, everyone stay in your seats, he's like pulling out a schematic of the plane. He's like, hey, we can hide right here, and takes off running down the aisle. So his mom has to follow him because, while she might be virtually indestructible, he's not. So she ends up getting shot, and the guy that shoots her, he's a psychopath. All the other guys are like, what the fuck did you do? He's like, well, she ran. He's like, yeah, we know, but it's an airplane. Don't shoot your fucking gun, you moron. Like, otherwise they'll shoot you next. So yeah, then she like comes back to and crawls down to the cargo hold and eats a dog, and then some of the bad guys are down there planting a bomb or something, and she kills one of them, and eventually one of the villains figures out that she's a vampire, which becomes really obvious once like her wig falls off and she's bald, and you can see like her ears are pointed and her like all her needle teeth come in, and the more she feeds, the more vampiric she's becoming. She's been taking some kind of drugs to to stop the need to feed and to control it. But so for her, it's a race against the clock of take out the bad guys before they can do anything to the plane, try to get another pilot, and try to save her son, all without like just becoming a complete feral beast. Meanwhile, one of the hijackers that figured it out took some of her blood and injects himself with it, which starts a chain reaction of then most of the crew and the passengers all end up becoming vampires because they turn very quickly after they're bitten. So then they land the plane, and it's like special forces are like got their train on the pilot. The kid comes out of the cargo hold. They get him out, and he tells them what's going on. They don't believe him, and they had picked up radio signals from inside talking about blowing up the plane because that's the plan. Because like everyone on board's a vampire, like they got to take out the plane so they don't escape. And it gets to nightfall, and the guy in the cockpit is like, "Fuck it," and rolls out real quick so they can't shoot him. And he gets out because they send the special forces guys in, and he's trying to get out. So they capture him, and as they're driving away, then all of a sudden you see all kinds of gunfire on board the plane because all of a sudden the passengers start attacking them. And the guys in the tower are looking like, what the fuck is going on in here? Because they can see the people with all the fangs and everything. And the kid's going back to try to get the guy. So the kid has the detonator to the bomb. And so once he sees his mom come out and sees that she's totally gone because she's charging him to eat him, he hits the button and blows up the plane. And they're like, well, I guess the one guy wasn't a terrorist. The kid blew up the plane. Well, let's let him go. It just kind of ends with like, well, I guess we'll just have to try to explain this to somebody, how a plane full of people just blew up and nobody survived. But no, I thought it was interesting, the attempt to make one of the vampires at least semi-heroic here, in that like she's trying to save her kid and is trying to prevent the other people from turning, but once the other guy turns, it's all over. But it was interesting. I think it's in German initially. Again, I watched it in English. So, one of the hijackers, though, was Dominic Purcell, who you may remember as Dracula from Blade 3. So, that's kind of ironic. He didn't turn. He was starting to, then she stabbed him in the chest with a knife and killed him for good. The only thing that seemed to kill them was burning them, or like killing them before they turned. But the rest was from burning, usually either sunlight or the plane exploding and burning them all to death.
Well, I don't know. Like I say, when it comes to vampires, like I'm fine with with most of the concept. But pretty much like anything, like if you were to completely destroy the body, I don't see that people should be coming back. I like to believe in at some point the cells there's just not enough material for things to form.
Well,
I mean, technically,
it depends on the vampires, because for a lot of them, cells, what's that? They're dead. Their cells don't work anyway. It's literally like demonic magic or something.
And see that, and that's fine if that's explained, that. Same thing with people with like Wolverine being able to just completely regenerate. I mean, because wouldn't you have to be like eating and getting nutrients?
Wolverine's not supposed to be able to do that. Like I think there's the one instance where he comes back from a single cell. There was something like his powers were supercharged or something. That's not supposed to happen. In his early appearances, like gunshots were slowing him down and nearly killing him. Magneto would have killed him whenever he tore the adamantium out of him because he literally ripped it out through his skin. Like, there was so much bodily trauma. If Jean had not been holding him together, literally with her telekinesis, long enough for his powers to finally start stitching things back together, he would have died.
As I said, there's one comic where he literally comes in from space and enters the atmosphere.
Yeah, no, that should kill him. That should have burned up all of his flesh, and then that's all she wrote.
Yeah.
Also, drowning will kill him. So, because it killed Dakin, it'll kill him by the same logic. His brain will shut down with no oxygen, but again, by that logic, if his flesh all burns up, which would include his brain, he should be dead.
So, at least in Deadpool, they at least say that like I believe his heart has to remain intact to pump blood to stuff or him to regrow limbs. Because if that wasn't the case, then there'd be two Deadpools. Because when Juggernaut ripped him in half, there'd be the lower half
Yeah,
of the.
don't try to
I know.
don't try to understand things like that because then it's I think there it's whichever side is connected to the brain. So
Well, I'm just saying that the one thing they would have to explain with any of that is that you can't generate material from nothing. Like even like healing factors.
oh well, you know they ignore that completely.
Yeah. Well, let's say even like with Wolverine. I mean, I would imagine he'd have to eat massive quantities of sustenance and food and whatever to be able to heal.
You would think so, but it's like I'm sure it's like Apocalypse. Like Apocalypse can alter his size at will and become as tall as the Statue of Liberty. Like
Does he also modify his density when he does that?
yes,
See, because I think
he doesn't become like Balsa would. No, he's still every bit as strong, and he can become denser
that's
if he wants to.
because that's the one issue with Ant-Man when he grows super tall is that he almost like he gains weight. Like when he shrinks down, it makes perfect sense because he's compacting all the atoms.
Yeah, which isn't how the Pym particles work, but like the Pym particles literally just shrink and grow things. Like they don't go into that whole atom crap because that has radical implications, and there should be no way to go subatomic. Because what are you doing? You're going smaller than atoms, but you're still made of atoms. Like we've established that.
Yeah.
So it shouldn't work at all. Plus, whenever they were trying to disarm that nuclear warhead, if they would have attempted that little deal with that, that would have been bad news all the way around.
Splitting the atom.
Because you shrink it down, okay? You would turn it into a supercritical mass and it would detonate instantly. Like, so of course they had to like get inside and fiddle with the electronics. They couldn't shrink the missile. So yeah, which also would mean that Pym would have a hell of a business making man-portable nuclear devices. Because you would need much less material, and you would just need to hit the button to shrink it. And similar to in the BattleTech universe, they still have conventional nuclear weapons, but their main ones are laser-powered fusion bombs. So they're much smaller. And, don't leave all the radioactive crap for decades and decades.
Yeah,
so
because
that's why they have mech-sized grenades, if I remember right, that are nuclear.
and and obviously like asking the comic book stuff. I mean, obviously none of that's gonna make a whole lot of sense because like the whole. But I like the discussions. I like if this was to be a real world thing, how would that kind of work? It's same thing. Like I think when we watched the first Ant-Man's, like how would he carry that tank in his pocket? If based off the logic in the MCU, if supposedly when he shrinks down, he has still the weight.
Right, the tank should still weigh 40 tons.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't. No. That's why it's best to not try to explain the Pym particles the way they did. Just go with they shrink and grow things. That's what you need to know about them.
Which I think they did in most other formats, because that's.
I mean, does anyone ever actually explain how the arc reactor works? They don't even try. It's like it generates electricity. Okay. If you say so.
Well, they try to explain in the second one where it was poisoning,
Well, sure, but that falls under the whole, like, we can just say whatever. Like, it's generating polonium. Sure, why not? Stark's like, you should have done this to the thing, and I don't remember that. And then he does it in the end, like, listen to your advice. Double the cycles. I shouldn't have told you that. As far as Vanko.
Yeah, well, I don't think he expected explosive mashed potatoes.
I mean, in fairness, I never expect explosive mashed potatoes. I don't think most people do.
Well, I think the whole, that whole scene where he gets like put into the cell with him, and he's like realizes that the numbers are the same and everything else. It's like that's a lot of work to go through just to break somebody out. And you're still banking on the fact that he could kill that guy.
Well, if he doesn't, I mean, you're just out a little bit of bribe money to a Russian jailer. Justin Hammer's got money to spare.
Yes. And the dance moves.
Yes.
Back it up.
But yeah, so that's about all I watched on streaming this week. So
I gotta say, my streaming has been mostly other YouTube channels, so and nothing worth really of note to come back to. I mean, I've been watching some comic book reviews and stuff like that. A lot of times when I'm working, I'll put a comic book review on the background and just kind of listen into it. Um, One of them that I watched recently was a review of gosh, no, what was that called? It was the one with Aunt May. Like they went back and like it was a comic book around Aunt May going to work at a resort where she met Uncle Ben, and it tries to explain um, that Peter's actually Aunt May's son. That she gets
mm,
knocked up, and that uh, so oh it's I have to find what the name of that is now, but the implication is that it was Aunt May and Uncle Ben with Peter's mom and dad, and Aunt May cheats on Uncle Ben with Peter's dad.
yeah, that sounds like terrible writing. But
I'm just trying to remember what the heck it was. Um, what it was called now. Dang it. I'll find it here real quick and um,
well, if we have to, we can just post it in the comments or something.
yeah.
But yeah, trying to think. Oh, so I watched the Transformers movie. You told me it's good. I need to check that
Yeah.
out. But yeah, That's it for streaming, I think. Uh, did we have any miscellaneous news? About the only thing I had was we might consider doing a what if type series. Uh, Maybe or still batting the idea around. And it'll be like, what if X happened in Star Wars, or what if Y happened in Star Trek, or we'll talk about other actual what if type storylines, like the actual what if Marvel comics and the Elseworlds comics from DC, or the more well known what ifs like the Age of Apocalypse, or what if movies. That one's a little more complicated because I suppose technically every fictional story is a what if, but I don't care about like what if Joni hooked up with Chachi. Like I don't care about that. What if they didn't? Nothing happens. Who cares? I mean more like say Red Dawn. Red Dawn is a what if scenario. The original, I have no idea what's in the new one. It sounded like crap to me. But in the original, it lays out in the beginning like how their world is different from ours, and then proceeds from there. So a movie like that would fall into this kind of thing.
Okay, so the comic was called Trouble.
Sounds like it's trouble.
Well, look, that's what the covers look like. They wrote them as like for a teenage girl romance, but these people are only supposed to be like 17 years old, 16 years old, or whatever. And yeah, they definitely is just like them going to work at a resort, and it's pretty much like Dirty Dancing, but they're hooking up and everything else.
This is before Peter's parents became spies, I take it?
Yes. Now, if it actually folds in any continuity, I don't know, but yeah, the implication is they're trying to say that Aunt May is actually Peter's biological mom, and
I'm just gonna ignore that.
I would definitely, but it's
Try to somehow forget that.
though that's the thing with comics is that there's always like those random stories, the One More Days, the
Spider-Man Reign, where you find out that all of Spider-Man's fluids are radioactive and he killed Mary Jane unintentionally by radioactive poisoning. I'll let you folks' imagination fill in the blanks on that one.
that one, the Ultimates. We were talking about that earlier, but the fact that the Scarlet Witch was in a relationship with her brother.
Yeah.
I mean, what are they? I mean, sometimes I'm just like, what are people thinking with these? Like, what in And to and to be honest, I think it's sometimes just people wanting to live out some sort of fantasy they have.
Either that or they read the first book of Game of Thrones.
Mm.
Because I'm assuming that's what happened for BattleTech.
I mean, Oedipus at least made sense because he didn't realize
Right.
they didn't realize it was his mom.
Yeah.
But
No, you got the same thing in BattleTech with Doshin Lao and his sister had a kid. Deny, Laos, and Treya.
I'll post that again. I don't know what. Uh, don't know why my cat decides to have to pose on the ground while we're filming podcast stuff.
That just wants attention.
I know we probably get more channel subscribers if we featured the cats on here more often, but
Probably.
It is funny though. Like for the people that watch the videos, just randomly the cats will hop up here and interject with their takes on things and
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Let us know what you guys think of the what if idea. We'll probably at least begin to pursue it, and we might roll the franchise fixes into that, kind of as an overarching umbrella topic. So we'll just have to see.
because we did the Alien one recently.
Mhm.
Not it's been a couple months now.
We do still need to follow up on that though. Someone I told you posted the idea that we didn't even touch on, as far as TV show. So we'll try to do that sometime soon.
Hell, I'm trying to go back and remember. Did we even mention about fixing Prometheus in that?
I know I mentioned like I want to see where Ridley Scott wants what he does with the other two movies. Because if we don't do those other two movies, then we've got to jettison Prometheus and Covenant because they're not going to make any damn sense if there's not the connective stuff. Even though I like both of them.
I wondered though with Prometheus why they didn't kind of end with it being LV-426.
Because it's okay. So
Like, everything was set up to make it look like it was LV-426.
Yeah, so there's a bit of a story there. The sequel was not supposed to be Alien Covenant. The sequel was supposed to be Prometheus 2 going off on that tangent. It was not supposed to go off on the Xenomorph tangent. But Fox was like, all right, Ridley, Prometheus looks awesome, but everyone clearly wants the Xenomorphs. We gotta adjust here. So that's why.
Studio meddling. That's a hell of a thing.
There's a topic into itself. We can talk about Highlander 2 sometime.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I understand that you have to meet a target audience. You're supposed to be. You want something that's going to be good enough to sell. But sometimes you just have to understand that people like the vision of the creators.
Yeah, well, that's part of the current problem. And I'm not going to claim originality on this idea. I definitely heard someone else express this, and I don't remember offhand who it was, so I apologize. It might have been the critical drinker, for those of you that don't know. Basically, they were talking about how the problem now is because of the cost of the movies. Well, you don't spend that kind of money unless you expect a return, and not just a break even, like a real return. So, of course, you have to make it of as broad appeal as possible, and then you get into it, and eventually the suits start getting nervous. So they want you to play it really safe, and then eventually they step in, and then there's multiples of them that step in, and they don't talk to each other, and it all just becomes a convoluted mess and becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy where it fails because they stepped in. And so it just happens. Like, was it Solo or Rogue One? They basically had to reshoot like 90% of the movie. Cause I think it was Rogue. I don't remember which one it was, but it's the one they brought in Ron Howard. And he literally reshot, I think it's like 75% of the movie. So, and that couldn't have been cheap. So there was no way that movie was ever going to succeed. I think it was Solo. But yeah, that's what happens. You get into the death spiral. We've spent this much money, so it has to succeed. Well, let's step in because we know what's good, even though you don't. And then, like, it's the back and forth, and you're adding extra costs because you're reshooting scenes. You're driving up your price, the number you have to hit. You just get to impossible land.
Well, and I think some of it is that there has to be a point in time where you have to tone stuff back. I think we've talked about it in a previous video.
We did.
Where marketing. There's so many avenues for marketing that you shouldn't have to spend these ridiculous budgets on marketing.
Yeah.
And it used to not have to do that. Like you get your trailers and your movies. You would go into the movie theater. You'd see the signage there for the upcoming stuff. Hell, half the time that's how I knew a movie was coming out. You didn't. Yeah, I'm waiting for her to pull that light down. Um, but they need to get back to a point where producing a movie, you could, because when we talked about the Star Trek retrospective, I think like the most expensive there was like what, 80.
I don't even know if any of the budgets got up to 80 million because the most financially successful one was The Wrath of Khan.
Yeah,
Or is 2 or 4. Is either that or The Voyage Home. It's one of those two. And it barely broke $100 million. Like the Star Trek, the original 6 Star Trek movies were just not box office titans.
well, I think the problem is that one, cost of everything's gone up, cost to pay actors has gone up.
Yeah.
And there's got to be a point where you have to reel it back in. And I think the right way to do it is like, one is pay actors a residual from what you make in the movie. If the movie makes $1 billion, well then you're Robert Downey Jr. and you're rolling in gold at that point. But if it only makes X amount, that's all that you get.
Yeah.
Instead of having these preset whatevers in there. Now I get that means that somebody may be filming for 6 months and not make any really money on it because the movie sucks. But at the same time, then you're going to have people come back and look at it and say, okay, let me read this script first. I mean, I think Nicolas Cage will pretty much just make a movie with anybody.
He actually answered a question about that. He did a thing where he's asking questions. And one of the questions was, do you turn down movies? And he said, yes, actually, I do a lot of them. He's like, I turn down movies all the time. People don't think I do because of what I'm in, but I do all the time. So,
and I think,
but I know for a while there he had tax problems that probably took some movies he wouldn't have normally taken.
And I think that we need to stop rebooting everything because people are like, okay, you're taking a timeless classic and rebooting it in a way that, I don't know, it's almost to the point like they want to make it as controversial as possible because then they can claim controversy is the reason why it didn't make money.
Yeah, you've got that, but also in the past with some things, they used to say there's no such thing as bad press, or all press is good press, something like that. Point being, if you were in the paper, it didn't matter why people were talking about you. But the problem is, like, I think we've had a few movies now that have definitely disproven that. Like The Flash, people talked about it because of Ezra Miller, and it tanked. Like the controversy surrounding him did not help it at all. Probably hurt it.
Yeah, and from what I've heard, it's not a bad movie. It's just,
we'll know in like a week or two. Well, I'll know anyway. When a week or two when it's on HBO Max, I'll let you know because it's supposed to come out before the end of August. So
well, and the problem is that now with the way that theaters and stuff are, I don't find myself going to the theater as much, and I do miss the experience of going to the theater and watching movies because that is the true way to watch it. I mean,
that's why I went to go watch a 50-year-old movie this week. Because I wanted to see it on the big screen in the theater, even though it was just me, Chad, and 3 other people.
And I mean, I was not one to always go to watch. I like comedies. That's one experience that I didn't go too much to the theaters. But I can tell you, back in my teenage years, I mean, I remember watching all sorts of movies, going on dates and seeing romantic comedies even. Ugh.
Yeah,
that was something else.
Yeah. I've actually seen Conan the Barbarian in theaters twice. I watched it once, one year at Gen Con, and earlier this year, Fathom Events had it on. I don't know if I'm going to watch Conan the Destroyer whenever they put it on, though. I should. Even though I think it's the lesser movie between the two.
I think they just got to find a way of reeling in the budgets and.
Well, I think one of the things you mentioned in the other video is also true. Like. You've like for a Marvel movie, how much are each of those people being paid? Like they're all stars at this point,
Yeah.
So instead, you need like a star or 2 stars and like a bunch of character actors or something.
Or like I said, you have the contract negotiated that it depends on how much the movie makes.
Yeah, give them something up front, something solid, but not. give them 10 million instead of 30 million, something like that, and then some like 0.5% of the back end or something.
Yeah, no, because I mean, the problem is that no movie's ever going to. I mean, that's why a lot of shows now are going straight to streaming because they can do the lower budgets and they're getting a residual on that.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because I mean, I think streaming has its place, like shows like Ahsoka and stuff like that. It needs to be on a streaming versus.
Actually, whenever we went to go watch Last Voyage of the Demeter, there was a trailer for a Netflix movie on in front of it. Because I'm watching the trailer and I'm like, this movie looks like it could be okay. It's Gal Gadot and some kind of action movie, and it's like, all right, I'm not going to go to the theaters to watch this. I'm not going to pay to see it. I'll watch it on like TV or something. But it looks like an okay movie. Then it's like a Netflix original. It's like, all right, now I know where I can see it. And then I was talking to Dad like 2 days later, and he's like, yeah, so I watched this movie with Gal Gadot. I go, action movie? And he explained the plot. I go, yeah, we just saw a trailer for that in front of a brand new movie. That must have come out like that day on Netflix or something.
Speaking of that, it wouldn't be a terrible idea for like Netflix or Amazon or whatever for their original movies to put a theatrical release to it.
Yeah, for some of them, for sure.
Just say like limited showing, advertise right on your own platform.
Yeah, well, there was I don't know if they went ahead and did it, but there was talk of the series finale of Game of Thrones being theatrical.
And I mean, I don't know what. It's not like they have to have physical film to send off to. I mean, everything's digital now, so I don't know why.
Yeah, except for Oppenheimer and IMAX.
Oh, it's done on.
Yeah, they've been running into problems with the projections because they don't have the projectionists anymore. And so like they're having to like find people that kind of know what the hell they're doing for the 80 millimeter print. Yeah, I think it might be 70 millimeter. I'm not a camera guy. I think Nolan looked at that and they were like, well, which lens do you want? And he said yes. So.
But yeah, I think that honestly would be a great idea. I mean, you get people because I guarantee there's movies that are on these streaming services that people would probably,
I'm surprised more of them aren't for sale on actual physical media.
Well, I mean, why not? Like, okay, it's going to come to Netflix in, September, and then August, put it in theaters for a limited run. Get some people to pay for it. I mean, hell, as much as I do streaming everything else, I didn't pay for Netflix. I got rid of Netflix for a while because I realized I had gone like 6 months without watching any shows on Netflix.
Well, the first 2 episodes of Inhumans were on IMAX. Sarah and I went to go watch those. They looked really beautiful on the IMAX screen. Hawaii looks lovely. Didn't watch the rest of the series.
You had to say Hawaii looks lovely right now with the whole stuff going on.
Well, yeah. I mean, it was not a cinder block whenever they filmed these shows. So, yeah. I'm not going to go down that avenue. I have some opinions on that, and they're not good.
Anyways, we've rambled on enough. I don't know if we have any other additional topics.
No. The last topic I had printed here is that blood red sky. We've gone way off course. So yeah, that's probably going to be it. So kind of wrapping things up. Just a reminder: check out the single topic. There's just a single video at this moment, but there's going to be more in the very near future. And we'll try to put a disclaimer or something for the ones that are just ones that we ported over from just our regular YouTube videos, just in case you've already seen them, so you don't get halfway in it like, wait a minute, I've heard these guys ramble about this before, just so you know. And that's also Cabal Whisperings single topic, I believe is what I called it.
Yep.
So I think it has the same icon picture though, because it's the Geek Cabal symbol. So, and it's funny saying that, that we have a symbol. We can thank Brad for that, by the way. He was the one who reached out to a gentleman on Fiverr to commission all that for us. So.
And we may need to reach out and have him commission some more.
Yeah, we've got a changed lineup. So, plus I want to get some stuff like in case people actually do want to buy T-shirts or something, because I can get it all set up through like Redbubble or something, so that we print on demand. But I just have to have it like certain resolutions and everything, and that's tentative coming down the pipe. So.
Well, I was gonna say we also probably need to get some so that when we go to any of the conventions.
Yeah. Yeah, for
We
sure.
need to see if we can get them with a QR code printed on, so people can just scan our shirts and
That's an idea.
so that they can get right to our channel.
Yeah.
Like I said, we were at Gen Con. I had one person ask me who I was streaming for, and I didn't even think I had a pocket full of business cards at the
Yeah,
time.
I gave one out, and I had one gentleman subscribe, talking to him standing there in line. So, and the last look, we're at 270 subscribers now. So,
Yeah.
and thanks again to Brian and Patrick for wanting to meet up with us. So, but yeah, I think that's probably about it. So,
I don't know. We're gonna have to set a goal for subscribers. We need to get up to, first goal. We need to get up to at least 300 by the end of the year.
that should be doable. The
Make
the,
it doable.
the ultimate goal, and I'm not going to pull any punches here, is 1,000. And for those of you who understand YouTube, you know why. So,
Well, because it's the subscriber count, and it is also.
oh no, we're way ahead of that. We're over halfway there on the viewing time. So it's the subscriber count that we're, because all our videos are an hour and a half long. So the time adds up really quickly. But yeah, so, and thank you folks who have subscribed. And if for those of you who are only listening on the podcast, we'd like to hear your thoughts on it. Do you want it more concise, less concise? Do you want the single issue stuff? Is the audio coming through great? Has it inspired you to check out the videos? Anything like that, let us know, because we try to improve where we can. But otherwise, Jim, you got any kind of outro for us here?
Oh well, I'm thinking of one here. Nothing really I got nothing on my mind. I need to think of these ahead of time, but usually, like the on-topic stuff, I have like a whip or a quip or whatever. But
well, all I can say is just try to avoid finding yourself on an airplane with terrorists and a vampire. It's probably not going to end well.
Or snakes.
Or snakes. Probably also not going to end well. Although, in fairness, there was a much higher survival rate on that plane trip than there was on this one. So,
what about snakes and vampires on the plane?
You're probably screwed.
Because then you have the people turning the snakes into vampire snakes.
Yeah, that's not going to be good. Yeah.
There we go. Somebody make a movie about vampire snakes.
Well, there was a knockoff Snakes on a Train I saw. I never watched it, but it was like FYE or something, and I was just like, come on now.
There we go. That's another topic we need to go on. Is all the knockoffs, like the Transformers knockoff, the Transmorphers.
Yeah. What's the Battleship one? Is it Destroyer or something like that? Because I think we watched part of it one time. It's got Carl Weathers in it. How the mighty have fallen. He should have just stuck to Apollo Creed. Of course, he got killed in Rocky IV, so maybe not. But he could be doing flashbacks in the movie Creed, maybe. Anyway, we're really drifting now. So, folks, thank you for watching
and listening.
And hopefully tune in to the next episode. We're trying to make these weekly. I'm going to try to kind of get them on a certain day. We haven't decided what day yet, so.
And we're going to try to wrangle in the others to join us in our escapade here, so that we have some other varying opinions and messages and the such.
So thanks again for listening, and we will speak at you later.